Reverend Green, pastor of St. Matthew's.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and a utility payer in the city of Alexandria.
All right.
I need some help. I just don't know, and I haven't heard, how much money are we accusing cleco of overcharging us through this long period? What's the dollar figure?
Legal counsel, I'll defer to them to answer that question.
I think Reverend Green, the mayor's already answered that question.
The dollar figure that they charge, how much?
He
didn't tell.
You deferring to the mayor of legal counsel?
Legal counsel thinks this is a political question.
It is a very good question, and it again goes back to something I think that we did spend some degree of time answering, and that is when you evaluate a best case scenario of where you can be. Obviously, there is somewhere that numbers are derived, and in this case, as everybody I think is somewhat familiar, maybe in this room more than others, there was a process that was entered into a few years ago, and it called for the city and cleco to have an expert, and then the court to have its own third-party expert. And that expert would take in information that either side could request and make evaluations. And so, trickily enough, while I can't tell you what they concluded, because that is still part of a court order, a federal court order, I will suggest to those folks that if you think about it a little bit, there has to be somewhere that the values come from. And although in the report that is famously known as the KPMG report, although that report doesn't list numbers as you would think. In other words, you don't open a document and say, A is this, B is this, Reverend Green. We are able to glean from that report through our own experts values to the different things. And what that report concluded was a set or range of values for at least 4 different counts. If you took how many counts were there in the suit? 27?
Yeah.
I think there were 20 some odd counts in the suit. They were grouped into 4 different areas, and when all those were added up, it created a range. We are not allowed to tell you that because that is something that's in the federal court. We can tell you that, again, and I think I thought it was clear, but now apparently it's not. If we achieved more in value than what the best numbers in that range are,
that's what I meant, Mr. Lawson.
then we have kind of answered it. If we can look at that range by our expert, and that number is X, and what we've achieved is X plus 5, then you have to consider whether that's the best deal. The administration has never weighed in and said one way or another whether that's what you want to do. Some people feel like you should go to court. But if the number is X, and you're hearing us say X plus 5 is 60 million, then by the power of subtraction, I would say that X is somewhat less than that number, let's say, and that you've achieved more value than that. Right? What it has to be.
I don't think we.
Please help.
That ain't clear.
I'm having a.
Let's, because I want to make sure we get it clear. And if it's a situation where it can't answer it, I understand that. But if it's a situation where it can be answered, let's get some clarity on it.
But,
go ahead, Reverend Green.
You know, Mr. Johnson referred it to the mayor. And all I asked is, if we're negotiating or we talking settlement, if we talking negotiation, there must be a figure somewhere to start and a minimum figure.
Mr. Lawson, that isn't true. In any lawsuit that any lawyer in this room's ever been involved in, there's a book of quantum that Malcolm can go look at, and he can look at ranges of values of cases. The only way to get a certain number, Reverend, would be to go to trial and have the judge award it and have it hold up on appeal and have it hold up on the appeals after that. So in no situation ever is there a value except on a monetary amount. You breach a contract, there's a set amount in there, you owe exactly the amount of that. That's not what's been alleged in this case. So I want to point out to everybody that the KPMG report, which gives ranges of value, much like studying cases or car wrecks would give you a range. No one can tell you that any individual case has X value, that he can only say, look, in the past, Mr. Lawson, this case has yielded this. We have an expert doctor. He's going to testify to such and such. In this case, you'd have an expert engineer who would testify to what he or she thought. And an economist would come in, and they would give value to those dollars. That has all been done. And that's been done by R.W. Beck. And that analysis is part of what will be unbundled and made available to you. And you will see how they came to those numbers. I can't tell you that the court will ever release the KPMG report, but Mr. Lawson, this is important. There isn't a value in that report. If I set all 100 pages on that chair and you look through it, you would not find a number. You would have to go out and do what Mr. Lawson and his colleagues did and spend a whole bunch of money with your own experts for them to evaluate that report and tell you what those values are. And that's how we achieve it.
I want to say, and I think we've answered most of the questions. One more question, Reverend Johnson. Then we're going to close out. I think we forwarded everybody.
One question. I hear you saying that we're going to get this return in a reduced utility bill. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, what about those residents? For instance, my dad had his place, and now he's living with me. He don't have a utility bill. What, does they get a refund, a cash refund?
Well, those are kind of questions. When I say that we're taken so that we can put them under consideration, we've not decided anything at this point.
Oh, okay, thank you.
But we wanted to hear those kind of questions. We're going to close out. Let me say this and be clear about it. Anything that's not up under the protective order that I have, and I can't speak for the administration, but I'm sure they feel the same way, the public can have. I don't want any secrets in this cleco piece. I think at this point we've had enough problems with trying to get information. So if we have it, the public can have it. Unless the judge, Mr. Johnson, tells us it's something we can't disclose that may involve trade secrets or something.
We have no reason to want to keep it.
Absolutely.
We have no reason to keep it.
So I've heard a couple of folks say that the information, certainly the KPMG report, those kind of things of interest, but if we have it, the public can have it. The last thing I'd like to say is Merry Christmas, and everyone have a very, very safe, enjoyable holiday season, and if there's no other business, we'll have a meal for adjournment. Thank you.
See you on the 30th.